Part two. Go ahead, Doc Robinson.
And see, when long as I was on the time clock, it was okay. But when I began to get my salary, and should have got my salary, which my salary was to be $52,000 a year with a vehicle furnished with fuels and oils and tires changed, take it anywhere I want to take it, use it as my own personal vehicle. Okay, so that would have gave me the average of $60,000 a year, which meant that I could have made me in 10 years $500,000. I was I had a 401k and all of this. And in my working career of 20 years, I'd have made $1 million plus. Okay, now that meant when I got ready to retire, I had all my sons. I had 4 sons. All of them was invested in my retirement plan, and I was 95% invested. So now, one day, a man by the name of Palmer Tuthill apparently went to a party and fell in love with some lady, and he fell in love, and I guess they figured they were going to live happy ever after, and they married, and he took his brother-in-law, which name was Jack Rutledge, and he took Mr. Rutledge, and he decided to bring him to the juice plant, which is, the juice plant was a place where you take concentrated orange, make concentrated orange juice from processing the orange process. And I was in the feed mill where I take the hulls, the waste, and convert them to a byproduct, which was citrus bulk, known as cattle feed, pulp, okay? And we had big, large evaporators for cooking off molasses and syrups like, but not fit for human consumption, but for only animals. And the dairyman used it, and it was 6% protein for the product, the byproduct we was putting out. I paid all the bills from the groves, all the plant work and everything that was pure profit, and they were making over $100 million a year. And I understood that they got up as high as $400 million a year. So, but anyway, I was paying all the bills from the feed mill. We're doing an outstanding job. Had been commended by one of the builders of it, Mr. Charlie Walker, that I was the best in the state of Florida and perhaps the nation. I'm not boasting, but this is what was said. It's proven facts. And I was commended by Mr. Walker we were able to get out of a pulp mill more than he had ever seen anyone be able to push a mill. I pushed it a little bit. I didn't push it beyond its point, but I pushed it as far as it could go, as far as its capacity. And for its size, I took a 40,000 unit and produced more than 2 twin 80s. And I put it through a 40,000 total evaporating capacity, for those who understand that language. But anyway, one day, Mr. Tuthill decided that he wanted to help his brother-in-law, Mr. Jack Rutledge, so he decided to bring him to the juice plant and replace me with Mr. Rutledge, okay, which was a white man, and wanted me to train Mr. Rutledge. And they told me I was a worshipful master of Masonic Lodge, and we have our grand session in April, so I went to the Grand Lodge. So when I went to go to the Grand Lodge, and I come back a week early, they told me that I was a dedicated, patriotic American. I mean, I was dedicated to my job, dedicated to my life, my future. I didn't believe like I believe now. Nobody couldn't convince me to think the way I think now. And then suddenly, all this changes because they set me down. They told me, I come back to work a week early. They set me down and said, Johnny, we got something we want to tell you. They called me Johnny. Johnny, we got something we want to tell you. I said, what's that? That was on a Wednesday. They we'll tell you later. Thursday came, we got something we want to tell you. So I said, what you want to tell me? Well, Friday came, they wouldn't ever tell me. So I got something we want to tell you. Saturday came, so when Saturday made it around, they knew that they had hired this man, he was going to be there Monday, they didn't have no other term, they put it off. They couldn't tell me the whole week. So they called me in the office, and man, this guy Wayne Thomas, a bigot, you know, he's dead, but he still was a bigot. I hope he changed before he died, but anyway. Wayne come in and he says, pull out this big leather chair with all the fancy buttons on it. I mean, he pulled the chair out for me to sit down, to break me the news. And he said, Johnny, we decided, he couldn't get the words out of his mouth. He said, we decided, and Palmer Tuthill brushed in and said, to hire another supervisor. I said, so what? Hire him. I'm not working no more nights. I said, you gonna put him in the juice plant area? No, we're gonna put him in the feed mill. I said, what are you gonna do in the mill? Well, we want you to do what you've been doing. Well, I've been rebuilding me or tearing it down bolt by bolt, nut by nut, changing out all the big screw augers, rebuilding all. My trade, I'm an industrial mechanic by trade, so I learned that. That's a long story how I learned that. Yeah, I'm not going to get into that. I mean, I had to tote the man. I'm just going to say a little bit. I had to tote the superintendent tool. I started out with a shovel. I didn't know anything. Tote the superintendent's tool that was over maintenance and had to make him feel like he was a god by telling him, "You the smartest man I ever met in my life." I washed his tools, toted his tools, and he taught me to make a gearbox, and he referred to me many times as nigger. Okay? He'll get round. He was an alcoholic, and he'll get round and say, "By God, Johnny, we the only two niggers here." You know, I figured him being a drunk. I said, "Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy." You know, I wondered just what's wrong with this fella. You know, I didn't like it. I didn't want to put up with it. But I had to learn something, so I had to take something to learn something. And I would never come in, I would never smile or laugh about it, but I just try to ignore it. So once I became an industrial mechanic, I became better than him, because I rebuilt planetary gearboxes that he couldn't build, and he the one trained me. So I went and I did my own personal studies. Then I began to learn. I got trained by Honeywell to program and calibrate the big furnaces until they certified me to calibrate furnaces as long as I stayed employed. And I calibrate furnaces that melt down iron and stuff. That's the kind of furnace we were running. And anyway, a big modular furnace. And I learned the sensitivity controls and all of this, so I know that to this day. But anyway, so much for that. But what caused me to believe the way that I believe is the ordeal that I went through. Attempts was made on my life. I was assigned every nasty job they had. They had drums out there with maggots in them that was in the ground. I go to pull these bags out unaware of these maggots, and then they pull the bag out and they slash upside my face and this kind of stuff. Make me dig them ditches waist deep, almost a tenth of a mile or 2/10 of a mile long waist deep with a square point shovel. When I get to the end of it, they come behind me, covering it up, and get to me and say it was dug 18 inches over too far. I went through everything that you possibly can name. So for 10 solid months, you know, so I filed charges with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission out of Miami, and then they sent it to Atlanta. And instead of taking 6 months, it took over almost 2 years before I got the results back. And I was eventually issued the notice, the right to sue. Jim Keeney sent it in to the first time. George Calkins and his power brokers, Old Man Bush, they turned it down. He sent it back. When it got put through this time, they stripped Jim Keeney from practicing law. He can't practice law anymore, and he was a federal attorney. And I hope that somebody will hear this and think about that Mr. Jim Keeney and do something to put his life, reestablish his life back, because they stripped him from practicing law because of me and the litigation that I found. See, when I got to the federal courts, Manuel Noriega had the same jury that ordered the arrest of Manuel Noriega, brought him to Miami, put him in the basement in the federal building on Miami Avenue on 3rd Street, is what it's called. And that the building was named after Judge William Hoover down in Miami, and Judge William Hoover was my judge. And then we had a sex discrimination case that we bifurcated, and Norman Rucker was over it, where they had rape, where women had been beaten from being raped and this kind of stuff on the road. So it was a renowned case, and therefore it made it to history. We made our mark in history. It was the first case of its kind. When Clarence Thomas got in position, he wrote against the Patterson lady that was a clerk in the bank or something, and when her issue came before the Supreme Court, when she lost, there was 105 major litigations nationwide. Out of those 105, 102 failed, 3 remaining standing, and mine was one of those cases because it was filed under the abomination of slavery. Okay? So, listen, I had the best attorneys. I advise you to get Scarola, Barnhart, and Chipley, Denny Skersey out of West Palm Beach, Florida. And always remember the name Moses Baker. His daughter is part owner of the firm. He was part owner of the firm. And she's there with them. And it's a renowned firm. You know, as I stand here and think about it, I'm going back in my head now with this thing. So when I went through the trial, I had to meet what they call the test. See, you meeting the test out here. You think you got civil rights and laws, but your laws is based upon meeting the test. And the test is based upon the best way the attorney present his case to the judge and interpret laws. And case study, okay? And references that they use, that old cases that would decide what Judge Wentworth was thinking, or what Clarence Thomas was thinking at the time he wrote his decision. These kind of methods are used in these high-profile cases, okay? And it's not just a typical research. So we went through all of this. for 12 years. 11 years in litigation. 12 years it was resolved. And we lost everything that we had, everything that we owned. So during the course of this trial, I had to meet the test of the very moment of hire. That meant that when I filled out my W-4 form, when the man set me down and interviewed me, that's the moment of hire. After the moment of hire, it was legal for him to call me what they did, a nigger. Indians was living proof, no, niggers was living proof that Indians screwed buffaloes, but they used the F word, okay? And our community was like 2 miles, the black community was 2 miles from the juice plant, and you go in the bathroom, you see graffiti like, flush twice, it's a long ways to Booker Park, stuff like this right here. And, you know, then we had what they called a nigger application, where the superintendent was, you go in and you come in, I'm talking about you out there, go in to get a job and you black. The man reaches his hand in the drawer and hand you what they call a nigger application, okay? And he'll realize what he hand you, and you look at it with disgust. And you say, what is this? He said, oh, I'm sorry, and he'll hand you the real application. 9 times out of 10, he wasn't gonna hire you anyway, okay? So he'll hand you, but on this application, it says what it called in terms porch monkeys and jigaboos and what's your favorite sport? Stuff like this. What's your favorite tool? A crowbar? What's your greatest desire? A white woman? All this kind of stuff was on this application. So we went through all the ridicule. So when I got to court and found out that if this man didn't do this at the very moment of hire, it was legal when Homer Cadwell said, by God, Johnny, we the only 2 niggers here. It was legal, okay? And therefore, I'm sitting there in the courtroom, and so when my verdict came, my case was tried for 8 long weeks, and we chartered 7 buses. They were full every day. We had 850 blacks and whites that associated with blacks that was in the case, and we kept the courthouse packed full. CNN covered it, this kind of thing, and Geraldo Rivera and these guys. But make the long story short, what caused me to think this way is I got there and found out, my God, I was a patriotic American, believed in the network and the system, believed that the system was equilibrium. I did not know no better people. I really thought this is the way of life. This was the American life, pursuing the American dream. And got there and found out that this man discriminated against me to the fullest. And then, once I got in the courthouse, I find that there's no justice for me. This didn't happen at the very moment of hire. You know the way I won my case was that when they hired Mr. Rutledge, they immediately put him on that $52,000, $60,000 salary and had me on the time clock for less than $9 an hour as supervisor. And I fought for 5 years trying to get my money. 5 years prior to me filing the litigation, okay? And I fought. I went through some things before this, before 1982, okay? I rebuilt the mill. They had fired a man that tore the mill completely down. Come back and got me. I had quit because they brought my son out there one day in 1975. They brought my son out there, and he was stiff as a board. My wife had him in her arm, and they would not allow me to go to the hospital with my child. So I had my wife, my wallet, my insurance card, and when they let me know if my child was living, I didn't know if he was dying or not. And everybody wouldn't have the courtesy to give me a phone call back in the mill to say, hey, your son is okay. And your wife called to let you know that your son got to stay in intensive care for the next 8 to 10 days. They wouldn't even let me know that. So when I found that out, I quit and went to work for $25 a day on a ranch, White Belt Farm. We paid for $25 a day, and it was owned by John Dupree from Miami, the richest man in the state of Florida almost, one of the richest. And you know, I can go on and on with this. They made several attempts. After I left them 2 years, they put pipe bombs in my welding shops and this kind of stuff. And they made attempts to try to kidnap my sons, this kind of thing. I'm not going to hide it. The judge put me under federal protection for 5 years and ordered me to arm myself to defend myself from Klansmen and everybody else. You know, and I went through hell, me and my family. But I got certified as a welder by the company that did the Alaskan pipeline, and a guy by the name of Wade Anderson, he's dead now, was a friend of mine from years back. And one day he saw that I could weld, and he gave me an opportunity, and that gave me a way to escape some of the ridicule. And then I met an old man called Mr. Patrick Yancey, working in the garbage industry. And they took and allowed me to do repairs on their garbage trucks. We refurbished. I was a total refurbished. I did bridges. I got certified with the Department of Transportation of the state of Florida, and I became a specialist with the state of Florida. To the degree that Pratt & Whitney was trying to recruit a minority. They were meeting quotas at the time. And I was solicited as the best welder in the state of Florida by the United States federal government to go to Pratt & Whitney to get a job at Pratt & Whitney Aircraft to be over 1 million square foot shop. And they took me, I met the 15 most smartest scientists in the world. I even seen the motor of the Blackbird, the engine of the Blackbird, the spy plane, this kind of thing. And all this occurred with me in my life. So, you see, it was my own self-determination. You see, so now I have evolved from where I came from. And now I realize that there is really no justice in America for a black man. You know, I hate to say this, but it seems like you got to meet the test. If you don't have good attorneys, if you don't have a good lawyer, and you fail the test, that means you lose your case, and you was right. You understand? But if you got a good attorney, and he got to have money, you see, because money sways this thing. One way or another, not buying, nobody don't buy it, but being able to go out and do the research you need. In my case that I had, we had, my statistical expert was the United States military statistical expert. That's who Scarola went and hired. The one that did the analysis as far as the harsh treatment, how you would react from being discriminated against. I don't know how to term it. The effect of discrimination. Dr. Caddy from London, England. Okay? And they were charging like $4,500 an hour. Dr. Marvin Dunn from the International University of Miami. These cats charge like $4,500 an hour. These are the guys Corolla hired. We had Henderson from the United States military.
Now I have met Professor Dunn, and so Dunn was the one that checked you out,
yes,
right?
Sir. Yes,
and was the one that brought that information before the judge, before the court.
Yes, yes.
And
yes.
all these people you're talking about, they were specialists in the field that dealt with you in relationship to your trial, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So what I'm saying is I recommend this firm. I had attorney Willie Gary. I recommend his firm because he's the one who filed it for me initially filed it.
And one other thing, you say you knew Gary.
Oh, yes, yes.
Talk about that just for a split second.
Well, Willie, I knew him as Edward Gary, okay? His brother was my next door neighbor for 23 years. I knew Willie when he was in school, okay? And we knew each other very well. He knew me as Fuzzy, just like that. And we know each other to this day. We know each other very well. His dad's name was Mr. Turner Gary, and he was working for Pratt Cirillo, harvesting cabbages and stuff, cabbage. And and by me being a welder, I did the 90% of all their work on their trucks and their trailers and stuff while Edward was in school. And Mr. Gary's wife, his name Gloria. So we all know each other. So, you know, I've been talking to him about this issue, and they're interested as well. Okay? So it's not that we don't have the resources. Okay? So when I tell that officer that, hey, you know, I was born here at Cherry Creek out there in the woods. I saw my granddad when he went to the market and sat all day, and they called him preacher and told him to get the land because of a white man. And then took his product and told him he had colors and he had number ones. And my grandmom told granddad, said, don't you sell him those cucumbers, Elder. Say, take the rest of them and sell 3 bushels to get some flour and meal and sell the rest of them, get the rest of them to the hogs. Okay, I never forgot that. And I was at least about 8 years of age. So when I come back here, 30 years later, and this is my home, and by the way, I had a welding business, a thriving welding business, and I was taking that business to Atlanta, and I stopped through here. And I stopped through here and I went and visited the old farm that I was being raised on, that was owned by a black man that let my granddad and them live there free of rent just because they're acquaintances and because that's how tight they were back in those days. They were going through their Renaissance period. And I saw freedom on that old farm. So I decided to stay here. And then I messed around and then I come here and I brought my business here. By me being done with the case, I was done with the welding. So I had my son to open Tyrone Mobile Welding. And when he opened Mobile Welding, we went around here and we couldn't get no work from the city of Valdosta, not the county. So waste management the largest haulers in the world. We was working for them down in South Florida. They sent dumpsters and roll-off tubs all the way from Fort Lauderdale to make sure that we be able to survive. They guaranteed me $100,000 a month through a contract. So therefore, we brought our work in here. We hired people from here to transport our dumpsters backwards and forwards. Then in the late 2000s, we went to Jacksonville, and we stayed in Jacksonville for 2.5 years, doing half of the state of Florida for waste management. Okay, for a refurbishing program that we were being paid out of a budget of $250,000 a month. A little bit, like it was a little bit better than $2.4 million a year. Okay, so we build bodies, we build truck bodies, we scratch trucks, we do all this just as good as the white man is. You gonna lay it out plain and flat. Okay, I'm beyond beating around the bush. I don't walk on eggshells when it comes to racism. Okay, it's either you on this side or you on that side, and I'm not prejudiced. My family is a mixed family. You do me a favor, go get my grandson. Okay. Okay, my family is a mixed family. My family is a mixed family. And I'll show you right here what I'm talking about. So ain't no, by no means can I say that I got a racist bone in my body. You see, and I'm gonna show this. And I want you to understand that this is about truth, true facts. And I want you to understand that it's one side of being on the other. And their sides is told righteousness or something wrong. I fought this litigation and for 12 long years. Some people's here say because I don't beat around the bush, I don't take the long way around and sit here, and even some of the ministers and the pastors would say that Robinson and George Rhynes, they want to play the race card. We are not playing no race card. We are talking about facts. We are talking about true facts. And those true facts is that something is wrong in Lowndes County. Okay? Something is very wrong in Lowndes County. And by it being wrong, it sheds this light. You understand? I need, excuse me for a minute. Where is Marcus? Yes, sir. And I want you to take a look at my little grandson, Marcus. And then you'll understand that no, Rhynes and I, we don't play race card. And we don't walk and tip around on eggshells. See, we don't do like so many of these leaders around here do, or other places do, and says that, you know, you got to fit in the system, brother. This is what they tell us behind the closed door. You got to fit in the system, brother. Well, I came from the system. And I'm telling you, the system is broken when it comes to you. But it's well put together when it comes to who the system was designed for. See, you don't hear that much about Cypress Attutt, the one that brought about the 4th of July. He was the first one to die. He's the one that broke the cord between Britain and the United States. In
the Revolutionary War. Crispus Attutt.
Yeah, that's it. Crispus Attutt.
Yes, sir.
Come here, son. I'm calling the man here. Yeah. This right here.
Step back a little.
This right here is my grandson. And his name, what's your name, son?
Marcus.
His name is Marcus Robinson. And I want you to understand. See, we are a mixed race of people. And how old are you?
9.
Who are you?
I'm somebody.
And what he said? Who?
Somebody.
He said, I'm somebody. That's what we teach ours to say when you ask them who they are. Who are you?
Somebody.
What's your name?
Marcus.
Okay, the first thing his response is to be, when you say, who are you? I'm somebody. My name is Marcus Robinson. Because we want him to understand that he is somebody. Come here, EJ. This is my other grandson. And he blows the saxophone. Okay? His father had, his mother had a degree in psychology. Who are you?
Somebody.
Hmm?
Somebody.
What's your name?
Elijah Robinson.
And what makes you somebody?
That, cause God made me.
God made you. Okay, that's all, fellas. I just did that to make a point.
Thank y'all so much.
Everything that we've done and we fighting so hard for is for them. As you can see this gray on my beard, I'm a dying man. I told you I had esophageal cancer and all that before. But what I want you to understand is that this is what gives me the mind that I have. and I can't see it the other way anymore. And I apologize to all of you that see it the other way and offended by what I'm saying, but please don't take this offensively.
We got a few minutes left, Doc, and I wanna go a little further than what you just showed there, because you only showed one of your grandsons. Don't you have other grandchildren that mix as well, right?
Yes.
And so it goes much deeper than what you just saw.
It do.
And so when you go back and check my blog or YouTube, you never hear me coming off playing, talking about calling anybody into racist. I don't even use that word. We don't have to. The only people that use that is the people who like information.
That's right.
But when you get information, knowledge, and intertwined with the Jesus that my ancestors taught us and we learned about, that stuff got a back row seat way back yonder that ain't worth bringing up. We can deal with the facts of reality, and we'll trick the wicked up every time. Close us out, Doc. Right. We have a beautiful day.
What I want to do is let you know that, see, by me being a minister, and I want all to understand this, pastors and other ministers, that the Lord Jesus Christ died out there on Calvary. And he's a supernatural God. I mean a supernatural God. And he expects you to have economic redemption. And believe in this. Believe in yourself. And do not believe in the system, because the system is not for you.
Once again, this is the Ghetto Free Press, and you're just listening to the Honorable Doc Robinson. He is a minister, not one to just sit in the pews, but he is concerned about making it better for his grandchildren that you just saw, for my grandchildren and your grandchildren, whether you understand him or not. We're going to continue what we do because it is indeed the right thing to do. Once again, the Ghetto Free Press, KYRC, which means Know Your Rights Campaign. Doc Robinson, peace be unto you, brother.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye, we gone.